Hello, loves. Hello, hello. Hills here from the Blue Flame. How are we doing? Whew, as you may notice, I am back in my home studio in San Francisco, at least for the time being, back from the powerful sacred site journey that carried me and my fellow Blue Flames through the eclipse wormhole and Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. Today, we are going to talk about the descent. For you cannot have the level of ascent, the amount of light that came through our systems over the last couple of months in particular, without kicking up a little bit of a debris storm and a purification. And we talked a little bit about that in the last video. And today we're going to talk about how the recently retrograded Pluto, the soon to retrograde Ceres, and the in her descent on her throne, Venus in Taurus is coming into her star point. We're also going to talk about the Taurus new moon, which happens on the 7th or 8th of May, depending on where you live. Let's begin, shall we, with the power couple known as Mars and Venus, both in their houses, in their signs of rulership, in their houses, as it were, their throne rooms. Mars and Venus almost simultaneously on the 30th of April, 1st of May, entered their home places. Mars entering Aries and Venus entering Taurus. Now, Venus rules both Taurus and Libra. In Taurus, it is creating luxurious, manifesting through and in union with the earth would be another way to feel into this energy. I mentioned that she's on her descent. What I mean by this is not that Venus is going retrograde. Venus is actually the only of the 9 traditional planets, and I'm going to put that traditional in quotes, that is not going retrograde this year. She is, however, next month on June the 4th, I believe is the exact date of this, reaching her Cazimi, or her star point, her conjunction with the sun, through which she will shift from a morning star into an evening star. We call the phase that she's currently in the descent, because she is disappearing from our sky. She is coming into union with the sun, and when she reemerges, she will no longer be witnessed in our pre-dawn skies or early morning skies. Rather, she will be witnessed as the sun is setting. So when we can feel into this energy, and we're going to talk a lot more about it as this Venus star point comes into, as we get closer to it. But there is some really important energy because she is moving through this descent in Taurus, which she rules. And there's so much energy in Taurus and Gemini right now, with Sedna having just shifted into Gemini. Jupiter getting ready to, towards the end of this month, also shift into Gemini. All of these powerful energies getting ready to, or in the case of Sedna, Sekhmet, and Hathor, transit over already Algol and Alcyon. Hathor and Sekhmet are getting ready to start to transit over Aldebaran. Now, these 3 stars are deeply and profoundly connected to the rebirthing, to the cycles of life and death. to coming into each cycle from a place of joy and empowerment, to remembering that as we traverse through our depths, we can come and rise up into higher heights. It's often said, the deeper the roots, the higher the branches. The more we are able to get into our lower chakras, the more we are able to access what is available in our heights, in our higher chakras, our upper chakras. It is in union with the lower seat of the soul and the upper seat of the soul. This is the kundalini rise energy. Your kundalini cannot rise if you're not doing the work that you need to do in your root, in your sacral, in your solar plexus. And this energy that we're currently navigating as we come into the Taurus new moon, as all of these energies are flowing in Taurus and Gemini over the next couple of months, are really helping us to bring a greater alignment between our roots and our branches, between our lower seat of the soul and upper seat of the soul, between our tailbone and our third eye, the entire central column of our being. Okay, so the other day I saw this brilliant meme on Instagram. Viola Davis, she's an American actress. She is wise. I love her. And the meme that she shared was a picture of a person sleeping very contentedly on their bed. And it said, "How I sleep when I know I said what I said and I meant it." How I sleep when I know I said what I said and I meant it. And this is part of the current energy that we're navigating. Clearing up all of that anxiety-stricken tossing and turning of, oh, what is that person going to think because I said this thing, even though I said what I said and I meant it. And I'm inviting you to feel into this statement, to find a way to embody this statement of knowing that you said what you said and you meant it. And allowing, did you mean it? Or did you say something because you thought that that was what the person wanted to hear? And which of those two actually creates more anxiety in your system? You might be surprised at the answer. I can't tell you what it is because it'll be unique for you, but you might be surprised at the answer. Especially as we move through this new moon. So let me feel, how do we want to do this? There's so much going on, which is really funny because this entire month of May, I have been feeling as a month of integration, a month of allowing rest, of finding that way to sleep easily, luxuriously, contentedly, knowing that you said what you said and you meant it. Part of Venus's descent in Taurus, coming into conjunction with the sun, coming into her star point, which is actually going to happen in Gemini, is finding ways to allow creative, luxurious expression without doing so much. Allowing that creative, luxurious expression to be embodied, to be something that you do for yourself, in yourself, with yourself. One way you could do this is, like sometimes it's called a goddess bath, but I don't care. It can be a god bath. It's just a luxurious bubble bath with crystals and candles and a glass of wine, like a really It's about treating yourself though. So if you don't like baths, it doesn't have to be a bath, but treating yourself. Maybe it is sitting and luxuriating over a cappuccino at a cafe in the sun. Maybe it's sitting by a river with your feet in the water, feeling the pebbles and the stream. Hiking up a mountain, sitting under a tree, flying a kite. Feeling, if you're gonna fly a kite, can I suggest perhaps feeling your feet on the ground and that part of you that's connected to the kite, so that you're getting that embodied flight sort of energy. We haven't even talked about Pluto's retrograde yet. I kind of briefly touched in on it, and then we went over to Venus. So let's bring this energy in now, because it's really, really important, and it's the template for basically the rest of the year. On the 2nd of May, for most of us, it was on the 2nd of May, Pluto turned around and started moving backwards through Aquarius. This backwards journey is going to take us all the way through the summer and into the early fall if you're in the northern hemisphere. You can reverse that if you're in the southern hemisphere. But through the months of May, June, July, August, into September. Through this, Pluto is going to move back through these early degrees of Aquarius that it has ventured into since the beginning of the year, and dip back into the last degrees of Capricorn again. This is the last time that Pluto is going to go into these end degrees of Capricorn for another 280 years, something like this. Part of the energy that we're getting to navigate is when you're moving. This is how we're going to go into it. When you're moving house, when you've packed everything up, everything's been loaded into the moving trucks, you've gotten rid of all of the stuff that you don't need anymore, everything's on its way or getting ready to be on its way to the new place that you're moving into. This is the final sweeps of the old place, of your old house, of your old way of being, the old structures and foundations. Making sure that there's not anything that you forgot, that you actually do need to take with you, while also cleaning up the space for the next person who will occupy it. Making sure that you haven't left any garbage laying around. Making sure you haven't left any garbage laying around, because, and this is something I feel like is really important that we're going to touch into right now. So take a moment and take a breath. It feels like a really long time before Pluto is going to be in Capricorn again, right? That, from our human vantage point, that's generational. That's generations and generations. That is many of our descendants. One of the things over the last couple of thousand years that humanity, for the most part, has struggled with is thinking in these long terms. We say, we can sometimes get to 20 years, like, oh, this is what I can feel in 20 years. But when we start to go into 50 years, when we start to go into 100 years, when we start to go into 200 years, 1,000 years, a couple thousand years, our ability to recognize our impact, our single incarnation impact on those time frames becomes really difficult. Part of what this next cycle, as Pluto is moving into Aquarius, part of the medicine of Pluto in Aquarius is being able to take a longer view, to see things from a wider lens, a higher perspective. One of the energies of Aquarius is allowing everyone's unique expression. Part of the way that the water bearer does this is through being in the heavens and allowing the mana, the waters, the wisdom, the light to pour down upon humanity from there. From this, we can start to understand that this dense material that Pluto represents, this deep bowels, guttural energy of Pluto, is asking to be expanded, to remember that that which we ingrain into our systems will be there for a long time. A way to feel into this is, we're going to use bubble gum. We're going to use bubble gum. If you swallow a piece of bubble gum when you're 5 years old, it will stay in your bowels for a good part of the rest of your life. This is because your bowels take a long time to move something through, and if it is something particularly dense and sticky, it takes it even longer. One of the ways you could think of this is bubble gum in some ways is plastic, and think about how long it takes for plastic to decompose in a landfill. In some ways it doesn't at all, which is why we have an island of plastic out in the Pacific Ocean. So, as I was saying, part of the medicine of Pluto in Aquarius is asking us to clean our house. And this is part of why we are doing this last sweep in Capricorn, to make sure that it is suitable for the next inhabitants. When we feel into what are the next inhabitants, what we're being asked to look at is that it may feel like a tremendously long time to us before Pluto is in Capricorn again. However, it will still be us. It will be our descendants that are living through that. And if we do our job right, the first time, the amount of toxicity that they will have to filter out when it comes their turn will be less. That is part of the energy of this Taurus new moon also. This new moon is happening at 18 degrees of Taurus. The sun and moon will be conjunct at 18 degrees of Taurus. This conjunction is happening at the exact midpoint between where Venus in Taurus is and where Jupiter in Taurus is, and very close to where Uranus is. So we are starting to feel into the rebirthing energies of that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction. We're starting to begin to lay the foundations for what will come as Venus moves into her evening star phase, as Jupiter moves into Gemini. We haven't really talked about Jupiter moving into Gemini these last few months because there's so much going on in Taurus, and as with these fixed signs like Taurus, it's important to really allow their full movement. And it's a little slower sometimes seeming than, say, the cardinal signs, which are like, let's go. The sun and moon are also making a fixed grand cross. And this is something that really feels important to highlight because of the particular players in this grand cross. So we have the sun and moon. They're already doing this Jupiter-Venus dance to like expand your ability to be luxurious in your embodied self. Expand, expand, expand. That is what the new birth is about. So they're doing this dance, right? Directly across the way, we have Kali moving retrograde in Scorpio. Scorpio, the sign that is ruled by Pluto. So we bring in that Pluto energy to this dance again, and now you can see how important it is that we are working in union with this Pluto retrograde energy, that we are coming into contact with what we might have left behind in the house that we still need or that we need to clean up before we leave. Kali, directly across, in retrograde from the sun and the moon. What does Kali represent? But clearing out the old battlefields. Literally laying waste to our demons, which are those shadow aspects of ourselves that we don't want to look at usually. So she's moving retrograde saying, you need to get deeper. And she's in Scorpio. You need to get deeper, get deeper, get deeper, get deeper, get in there. There's more in there for you to clean out. Allow it to move. This is a very purgative energy. And new moons are about what we're bringing into the future, what we are seeding into the future. So as we are doing our new moon rituals, whatever that might be for you, perhaps it's a cleansing fire or a cleansing bath. Work with the elementals, the elemental beings, air and earth and fire and water. Allow them to help guide you into a practice that will help you get deeper in. It might be something to do with food or having a conversation with the beings that work in your bowels, in your stomach, that help you to digest that which you eat. Ceres is very powered in this particular new moon as well throughout this entire month. So that actually throughout the rest of this year. So Ceres, which is very connected, this is the goddess Demeter also, very connected to the story of Pluto and Persephone, very connected to Jupiter, very connected to the food that we eat. I said this was a fixed grand cross though. Over in Leo, Hecate, crossroads, shining a torch, medicine woman, the Hecate, that energy of the cycles of life. Hecate in Leo helps us to remember that there is a heart-driven path that we can take, a love, a bold path, and to not be afraid of the bold path. to examine all of the various paths that we have taken, to look at what it means to be strong, to what it means to rule, to be in leadership. These are the questions that Hecate is posing to us in Leo. And she is directly across from the Anubis in Aquarius. The Anubis is the god of the underworld, the funeral rites in ancient Egypt. Dog-faced or coyote-faced god. Anubis is also the son of Osiris, and the being who helped Isis to remember, to put Osiris back together when he had been dismembered, when he had forgotten his parts. And through this journey with Isis and the Anubis, through the underworld, this remembering and a rebirth occurred, which allowed the child Horus to be born through a union between Isis and Osiris. Anubis is not Isis's son. Adopted, yes, but actually nephew. Oh, you gotta love the gods. Now, Osiris is also involved right now. And before we get there, let's talk a little bit about, let's close the loop on this fixed grand cross, shall we? So if we think about this god Anubis, who is connected to underworld journeying, being across from Hecate, creating this fixed grand cross with the sun and the moon, with Kali in retrograde, we can start to understand that we are being asked to go into the depths. One of the things that I have really, really been feeling, and the words that keep playing in my head are, because I'm in the northern hemisphere, the summer of our descent. The summer of our descent. And when I say descent, I mean both our downward journey into our underworld, but also our descent, our D-I-S-S-E-N-T descent. Our, we will not take this anymore. It is time to rise up. But in order to rise up, we go down and in and access those things that are really troubling us about the world that we live in currently, so that we can clean it up. All right, now we can get to Osiris, who is conjunct our now retrograde Pluto in Aquarius, not too far, but far enough away that it's not a conjunction from the Anubis. Although Osiris, I believe, is still going to be moving forward for a while and will probably come into conjunction with his sun soon. More on that as it happens. They are in trine, an air grand trine, with the now in Gemini Sedna, no longer Hathor and Sekhmet. They have moved on. They are a little bit further away and not quite in conjunction anymore. They are still working with the supergalactic center in Libra, though. And this energy, that Pluto turns around in almost exact trine to the supergalactic center, bringing us not simply to the center of our galaxy and how everything that we do here impacts the entirety of the rotation of our entire galaxy, but reminding us that it is farther out. It is everything that happens in our galaxy impacts what happens in all of the other galaxies also. It's like one of the ways that we can think about this, and we're going to get really embodied and food-centered again, because of course Ceres and also all this Taurus energy. What we eat, it does not just affect our mental body, though it does that. It does not just affect our emotional body, though it does that. It does not just affect our physical body, though it does that. It also affects our spiritual body. What do I mean by this? When we eat something that lights us up, that's truly nutritious, and I don't mean it's nutritious in that it has all of the vitamins and minerals that our body needs. I mean truly nutritious. It is the exact thing that our body, our entire bodies, our entire beingness called in that moment. It ripples out through every single one of the little tiny subatomic beings that make up our beingness, out through all of their connections to all of the subatomic beings that make up the beingness of everything that's around us. And all of that alights. So if for you in a moment, the thing that you most needed, the thing that your soul and body and stomach and all of the little micro beings that digest your food for you called in was an apple, and you ate an apple, it would just light up through your electromagnetic field, through your energy bodies, and ripple out into all of everything. Can you feel how in the quantum, when we begin to understand that one tiny little subatomic particle over here can actually communicate with a subatomic particle over in this other universe, that what we do on this little planet, in this little solar system, in this little arm of the Milky Way, actually impacts everything that happens everywhere else. Everything's connected. Everything's connected. And that is Pluto turning retrograde in trine. That is the gift of Pluto turning retrograde in trine to the supergalactic center. In Aquarius, in Libra, remembering that it is all connected. The interconnectedness of the all of everything, right? We also have a cardinal grand cross happening during this new moon. We have Chiron conjunct Mercury, still in shadow but no longer retrograde, in conjunction with Magdalena's asteroid. All of this Aries energy. And the aforementioned Ceres, who is in Capricorn right now, is in the square to these. This square is going to be still active on May 15th when Ceres turns around and starts moving backwards, which she will be doing all the way through until the end of August. And as she turns back around, she will come back over. She'll come back over this square with Chiron. So Ceres and Chiron are doing a little dance for the rest of this year. The South Node in Libra is part of this dance. Now, it's interesting because normally the energy of the South Node and the North Node, which is in Aries, would be a little far out, beyond the orb of what we would call active, most astrologers. However, because of what's happening over in Cancer, they're being pulled in. So our destiny line is being activated still with Chiron because of what's happening in the house, the sign of belonging and familial relations, Cancer. in Cancer, we have a beautiful Vesta, eternal flame, Medusa, empowered, reclaiming story energy, which is similar to the energy of Magdalena. Dragon Rosa, the rose dragons, which is empowered compassion and detached service. And the stellar dimension of Sirius. Actually, the stellar dimension of Sirius is directly in between Vesta and Medusa right now and through this new moon. Sirius is an energy very connected to what is often called diamond consciousness or the Christ light. It is that crystalline frequency of pulling, opening, allowing our diamond consciousness to come online. That aspect of our light that is divine. That aspect of our light that is divine. Our stellar light. Sirius is also considered to be the sun of our sun, the soul of our sun, the soul star of our sun. So as we have a soul star chakra and our sun is connected, it's one of the ways that we speak through the stellar dimensions. The heart of our sun connects into the heart of Sirius. So when we feel this cardinal grand cross and we remember that as the fixed are the closing of cycles. Why am I saying that? That's not true. The fixed is the middle ground of cycles. I like it when I catch myself in the midst. It's because I'm feeling that Gemini energy too. The fixed are the transitional periods. And so we're in this transitional period, but we're able to connect to the new that's coming in. We're able to connect into the new that's coming in. This group in Cancer is also in a water grand trine with Kali. And that's heightening the energy of clearing out old past junk. This new moon is very connected to derubbling our karmic line. Especially when we bring into the equation that this water grand trine includes Saturn in Pisces. So we have Kali doing all of this work with the new moon itself, right? With the Anubis and Hecate there. Then we have Kali herself in a nice, tight grand water trine with the eternal flame Vesta, with Sirius, the stellar dimension of, with Medusa reclaiming of story, and with the rose dragons coming into that state of belonging through empowered compassion. And Saturn over in Pisces. And Saturn over in Pisces. Bringing us into connection with our karmic cycles, which brings us full circle back into what Pluto's journey through Aquarius, the medicine of, and what we're doing as we move back into Capricorn for this last little bit in September and October. Let me feel. This was just a lot of information, and so you may need to watch this a couple of times, but the best advice that I can give as we move through this current cycle is to enter into some real conversations with your body. Enter into real conversations with your body. I shared a little bit about this in the last update for the Scorpio full moon, And I've shared a bit about it over the course of the transmissions and energy updates that I've shared with you over the years, that we can do a lot of good in our systems, which ripples out when we start to really get into conversation with our bodies. For myself, it began through a really devastating illness, a series of them that helped me remember that I am a we. It's not simply Hillary or Hills. It is billions and billions and billions of consciousnesses in the form of atoms and neurons and the micro beings that digest my food and all of the fluids and the air and the substance, the structure of my being, the fire that lights up my entire electromagnetic circuitry. All of this in union, in dance together is the I am. And when I can be in conversation with those parts of my being, with those aspects of my being, the way that I exist in the world changes. So my interactions in the world change. My decisions about how I'm going to act in the world change. And you feel how much simply turning your morning cup of coffee or tea into a ceremony where you're honoring all of the elementals that make up your beingness can change everything about your life. So yeah, I guess that would be my biggest advice for this cycle and for always. Like, let each moment be a celebration and a ceremony in that way which it is asking to be. If it calls to celebrate and ceremony in union with the working circle that is the Blue Flame Members Portal, I invite you over to the Patreon. There will be a link below. I would love to hear in the comments how this is showing up for you. What are you experiencing in this current energy? What do you feel you're being asked to shed? What are you being asked to birth? What is still in that subtle realm that you're not quite certain how it's going to be yet? Perhaps you're called to name it now. If you have not already, I would love, love, love to invite you to like this video, to subscribe to the channel. You know, all of the things that help share the message that is flowing through in this moment from my soul to yours. And share the video if that calls too. However you journey, and in all of your journeys, as always, in the always, so much and many loves to you from, through, and beyond the all dimensions.